wrestling fans, it is Monday, November 4th, and we have just finished watching this week's edition of Monday Night Raw. Overall, a show I think we're going to look back on and just say, meh. There's a few good matches, a lot of not-so-good stuff, and a really interesting closing segment going forward, which I think will end up being the first thing we talk about. First, let me introduce everyone we got in the panel tonight. First off, I will be your lead host for the evening, Mike Paden, lead host of Keeping Kayfabe, as well as many other things, as well as the leader of Mega Powers Radio here. Also joining me, we got lead host of I Got Gameplay from Saturdays here on Mega Powers Radio, Mr. Michael Burhan. What's shaking, Burhan?
Nothing much, just laying here trying to mull over what happened on Raw.
Letting it bake?
It's like a kind of underwhelming sensation and a little bit of joy.
Okay. Steven, also with us, lead host of the Unanimous Decision MMA show over on the Dream Elite Radio, as well as a currently unnamed anime show we got here on Mega Powers Radio, Mr. Steven Wago. What's shape, dude?
I'm good, man. I went from hating Raw to being okay with Raw to being confused by Raw, so it's going to be an interesting show tonight.
Yeah, to say the least. I think we're going to be bouncing back and forth. Who knows what kind of weird jokes we're going to end up diving ourselves into. This show has been absolutely wacky the last few weeks. But
we're powerless tonight, so I don't know how it's going to go.
We are powerless tonight. But I think we got a lot to talk about from this night Raw. Why don't we first just dig into what we just saw in the closing segment? Big Show meets Stephanie McMahon and Triple H in the ring to talk about his demands in order to drop the lawsuit. It's not money he wants. He just wants his job back. But in addition to getting his job back, he also wants what he says is what's appropriate for the world's largest athlete, and that is the world's largest bonus. Which I thought was a fun little line. He says he wants to be the new face of the company. Just as he says that, the Shield's music hits, they come down, and we go to commercial. Wah, wah.
Yeah, that was a good way to kill the momentum going into the angle.
We come back. Shield is standing outside by the announce table. We have Triple H and Big Show in the ring continuing to do their bargaining. In the end, Triple H ends up granting Big Show a match against Randy Orton for the WWE title at Survivor Series, so we got our main event there. But then, Triple H announces that he is going to be making an impromptu handicap match between Big Show against all three members of the Shield, as well as Randy Orton. Match starts up. It's Tornado Rules. Before it can get anywhere too far, though, we see Kane's music and his Titantron hit, but it's not the Kane that we're used to seeing. We have Kane in a suit. Short buzz cut hair, and in a full three-piece suit. Kane comes out. He hands chairs to the rest of the Shield members. They beat down Big Show, eventually doing their triple power bomb through the table. Absolute insanity. We got our big match going into Survivor Series. Guys, let's go around and talk about how you feel about this segment and how you feel about what we now have officially known as our main event for Survivor Series. Wago, why don't you start us off, man?
Well, honestly, the most the thing that struck me the most was the whole decision, what they're doing with Kane and the way they're approaching his character, because it's a dynamic of it we've not seen before. Sure, he's been in the corporation, but he's never been suit and tie, if you know what I mean. At first when he comes out, I'm like, Libertarian Kane. But I don't know what they're going. I don't know where they're going with this. I'm a little confused by this whole angle, but I'm intrigued, and I want to know what happens on the next episode of Raw, so I guess they've done the job. I'm not interested in seeing a Randy Orton versus Big Show match. I'm assuming the match is going to be overbooked as hell. I mean, it would make no sense why it wouldn't be. Way they're going with this whole thing. As far as Kane goes, I'm wondering if he's going to put the mask back on for matches or not. I don't know what angle they're playing with this. It's all a bit confusing. But overall, I actually enjoyed the segment, and for what was a very lackluster show, other than a few good solid matches, this made it for me. So it left me feeling confused, but it left me enjoying the closing moments.
I cannot see him going back to wearing a mask just for the match. As a matter of fact, I can't even see him wrestling in his old attire. I don't know if he's going to wrestle in a suit or what they're going to put him in, but he absolutely can. I can't see him really having anything that associates too much with his old gimmick. As a matter of fact, I think one of the first things they have to do is get him new music and a new Tron. If they're really going to go this route, they got to go all the way.
Yeah, but he kind of said back if we're going back to the initial angle. it was basically saying the monster's yours to unleash. So I was thinking maybe whenever Stephanie wants him to do his bidding, basically slaps a mask on him and goes tell him to kill some people, and that's it.
Oh, like she goes up to him and actually like hands the mask to him and says, "I need you to do something for me."
Yeah, that type of thing. It might seem a bit stupid, but I could see
that could be like a crypt keeper type thing. That's kind of cool.
But that's what I first got from this when I saw the whole thing. I might be totally off the money though. It seems a bit far fetched, but it's doable.
All right, well, before we continue the conversation about that, we got a caller on the line. We're going to bring him in. We got a caller from the 228 area code. Caller from 228. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Michael Stewart, Mississippi.
Hey, Michael, how you doing tonight? What'd you think of Monday Night Raw?
I think it was kind of shitty how they treated Big Show at the end.
Oh, you a Big Show fan?
Not really. I mean, Big Show and Kane are like best friends. I just don't understand why they would do something like that.
Well, maybe Kane got the right numbers. Kane sold out.
Yeah, I think he did.
Even monsters can find use for money.
Yeah. He's just working for that bitch, Stephanie. If he wasn't working for Stephanie, he would be fine. But
so you don't like new Kane in a suit? You're not feeling this new character?
Not really, because I miss the Kane that set JR on fire, Tombstone to Priest, stuff like that.
So it's okay if he beats up Big Show, but it's not okay if he beats up Big Show, but it's okay if he sets a bullet commentator on fire.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, at least I know what your standards are like. I can't argue with that.
Michael, what else is on your mind tonight, man? What else stuck on Raw for you?
About the Wyatt family. I mean, I really do hope what's coming at them. I hope they get it. From the Survivor Series match, Wyatt family versus CM Punk and Daniel Bryan.
Who do you think is going to be the third man on the team?
I really don't know. That's actually pretty tricky.
All right, Mike, anything else on your mind tonight, man?
Not really.
All right, Mike, before you go, let me ask you one more thing. What was your high point of tonight's Monday Night Raw, and what was your low point of tonight's Monday Night Raw?
My high point was, I'm going to say a 6.
I mean, what segment on the Raw was the highest point for you?
Highest point.
Like, yeah, what was the most exciting time on Raw tonight for you?
Most exciting time was whenever Biggie Langston and Randy Orton.
Okay, that was a good choice. And what was the worst part of the night for you?
Worst part of the night was the Usos fighting 3MB.
Oh. What 3-man? All right, Mike, thanks so much for calling in, man. Have a good night.
You too.
And everyone else, if you're listening in, of course, you can always call in area code 760-512-7247. That's area code 760-512-7247. You can also join us via Skype if you're listening to us on the broadcast page. You'll see a Skype icon at the top. Just click on that. It'll open up your program and dial you right on in. All right, I believe we left off. We were still talking about Kane's new business persona, Burhan. I don't think we got your call on this. Why don't you tell us about it?
It's a very corporate Kane. I agree with Steven on this one. It was very weird. I don't think we're going to ever see him wrestle again, to tell you the truth. Ooh. I think we're going to see him in more of a Rick Rude role, kind of the backup for this new corporate structured entity they've got going on with the Shield and Orton. I think he's going to be the guy who, does the run-ins, attacks for the rest of the guys in the corporation 2.0, whatever the hell you want to call them, the establishment. He's going to be the guy who accompanies Orton to ringside whenever he has a match. That's the extent of it. I don't think we're going to see him get physical unless he has to. In terms of the Big Show getting beaten up, I'm glad, because it doesn't make me feel so bad for Brian now. Because Brian was getting the shit kicked out of him every single night. He tried to defend himself, and Show looked helpless. And I think that's the way they should do it.
I think it's outrageous, actually. You've got a young upstart like Big Show trying to make it big for the first time, and they're treating him this way.
Mm-hmm.
I love your sarcasm.
Big Show is being held back so much. Big Show deserves a bigger push.
I know, right?
Off a cliff. But it's a good thing. I'm glad what they're seeing through the storyline. Again, I think it took a little bit too long. The pacing of Raw was horrendous. It was really atrocious, but we can get to that when we do the breakdown of the matches. It took too long. It was like every minute they had a break.
So why don't we talk for a second about Big Show's whole story here, where he's threatening to sue the company for they kept playing these video packages of these legal papers of him being discriminated for being a giant and slander and all this other mumbo jumbo. Surprisingly, no involvement from David Otunga tonight. I guess he only gets one short little snippet. Also, maybe because he read it so wooded. That was terrible last week. I don't know. You guys gonna feel this feud, or do you think maybe hopefully they're just gonna go in a completely different direction with it? Burhan, what are you thinking about it?
I hope they go in a completely different direction with it. In terms of him suing the company, I think that's all done and dusted now. The whole board of directors line, I like that because it sort of gives them an out, in a sense, But it did make me laugh. Where was the board of directors when Daniel Bryan was getting the shit kicked out of him? In terms of what they've been doing so far, it's kind of been shoot from the hip, 11th hour, kind of like changing things as they go. The whole of like showing the Big Show's evidence on live TV did make me laugh a little bit. But again, it's trying to make people empathize for him and see the McMahon Helmsley faction as kind of the bad guys. In a sense, I think he'll get his match. He'll probably end up losing his match, and then we'll be on the long list of guys waiting to fend off this regime.
All right, we got a caller on the line again. I'm not sure if this is the same person. Caller from 228. Is this Michael again, or is this somebody else? Hi, caller from 228.
Somebody else.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry. What's your name? Where you calling from, man?
Somebody else.
I think dude just butt dialed us.
Could be. That was weird.
Yeah, that was a bit odd.
Hold
on to your butt.
Hold on to your butts. Steven, what are you thinking about this storyline? You think they're going to keep going with this Triple H Big Show trying to hold them by the balls, or how is this going to go from now on?
Does that deep into the storyline now where they have to give Big Show a title shot? I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a very overbooked match. Big Show's going to take out the Shield, probably take out Triple H's interference and get caught by Kane, and that's going to end up leading to a Triple H versus Big Show match later on in the year. And I don't know how far along they're going to drag the storyline out, but as long as Big Show's only in the title picture for one show, I don't mind it so much. Overall, I'm not a fan of the story. I just think Big Show's... Don't get me wrong, they've made me care about Big Show more than I have in a long time. At the same time, it should be someone else they're picking. So, I'm not sure where they're going to take the story, and I can't say that I'm too happy with it currently, but fuck. I'll pretty much be happier once it's over.
All right, guys, we're going to rewind then. Let's go all the way to the beginning of the show, and let's run it down. We got another cold open this week. No opening theme credits or song or any of that. I believe this is the third week in a row they've done this. Really interesting. With a 3-hour show, you're so packed with all this great content you feel you got to put out there, you can't even have your opening intro.
That pyro budget's expensive, man.
Well, our fantastic opening segment is a match between CM Punk and Luke Harper, with CM Punk getting the victory with a roll-up of all things. After the match, the Wyatt family begins to attack, with Daniel Bryan running down for the save. And so it looks like we're getting a Survivor Series matchup, as we heard on our phone call earlier, elimination style between the Wyatt family and currently CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. You would have thought Kane was the obvious choice to be slotted in, but Kane's doing his thing elsewhere. Who's going to be someone else we can see slotted in with this, guys? And is this the best thing to do with the Wyatt family? Let's go around. Steven, why don't you go first?
Okay. It's currently, I don't think anyone on the current roster is able to fill that spot in. Dolph Ziggler, has he had any issues with the Wyatt family? I don't think so, so he'd be a bit odd.
Maybe like Kofi or R-Truth, I think, are the only other people.
Yeah, they're the only other logical choices, but at the same time, I still don't see them being put in a program with guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. It's doable, but that would mean WWE wanted to make some of their younger talent relevant, and that doesn't happen. So I could see a Mark Henry, if he's ready to come back, come into the picture. I don't know how well Sheamus is. Obviously, WWE's put out guys being released information saying guys are more injured than they are, as we've seen with Cena. So perhaps he might come out. I'm not particularly sure, but I think it's a guy that we're not thinking of who's on the current roster. I could see it being a Mark Henry of some description.
Burhan, what are you thinking about this setup we're getting here?
I'm thinking R-Truth. Tell you the truth, he's had he's had an issue with the Whites before. He'd be a logical choice, and they always slide him back in some way or somehow. Or you could have Big E Langston. He's not doing much at the moment,
except for challenging for the United States title.
Well, for the Intercontinental Championship on main event and the United States Championship as well. We could have him win the IC title and then maybe feud with Bray Wyatt. Never know. Give Wyatt a singles title. But there's a slew of challenges really that they could put into that picture. I think the only guy to be safe who probably wouldn't be in that picture is Zack Ryder. But they've got a number of challenges. With this feud, I could see Bryan and Punk going after them. They may even just have Bryan and Punk versus the Goat Twins, Harper and Rowan, and just basically leave what's his name, Husky Harris, in the managerial role. Bray Wyatt, sorry, I was being blasphemous.
Keep forgetting he's Husky Harris. He looks quite different.
Awesome Piano Man is saying in the chat the third guy of the Punk Bryan team should be the Olympian guy. Who's that?
There's a new Olympic wrestler that WWE have signed. I don't think he even knows how to bump yet, so...
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah,
no, in the WWE that might happen.
Yeah, probably. But, I got the... Chase Betts, I think his name's pronounced, but yeah.
Does he at least know English?
I don't know. I don't give a fuck.
We don't want him standing there going, yes, I could make him tap in seconds.
Just put him with Zip Coulter.
He's a real American.
All right, well, so much for this then. We get a short phone call from Paul Heyman, where Paul Heyman seems to be crying, followed up by a match between the Great Khali and Ryback. Ryback coming down Paul Heyman-less, of course, because Paul Heyman is not in the building. We also have a previous segment where we have Ryback versus Catering. Back on, finally. Only this time he ended up getting caught by not just Santino, but Santino's big friend, Great Khali. So we end up having the Great Khali and Ryback. Ryback ends up winning with the meat hook clothesline. So we were having a huge, huge debate about this, about the current state of Ryback. I am very much of the belief that Ryback has fallen so far down that he's not going to be able to redeem himself. He'll be lucky to keep a job for another year from now. Steven, for some reason, thinks there's still hope for this guy. Steven, why don't you make your case on this?
Well, for starters, I think it's way too early to use the word bury on this guy, and that's what a lot of the debate stemmed from. I think it's way too early to say the guy's been buried. I think there's still a chance that he can stick around at the upper mid-card level. For starters, the guy just came off a feud with arguably the number 2 free guy in the company. And sure, he lost, but that's why CM Punk's the number 2 or free guy in the company.
But he didn't get any wins on him at all.
Yeah, no one ever gets any wins on John Cena, ever.
Sure they do.
No, but Ryback's never had any wins since he turned heel.
Yet he's always been on that level.
He had one on Chris Jericho. That's it.
Then he won with a roll-up.
Yeah.
I still think there's hope for the guy. I mean, all you got to do is turn him babyface. The Feed Me More shit was over. It was still over back before he turned and went into the main event picture with John Cena. I think there's plenty of hope for this guy. He's got a look, and the fans obviously care enough to chant Goldberg, so fuck, they somewhat invested in him. I think there's still hope for the guy. There's no reason just to give up on him at this point. There's always a chance to rebuild a guy. There's plenty of guys that have up and down moments in their career, and that includes a guy like CM Punk, who was down on his luck multiple times in his career, so it can happen to anyone.
Burhan, is there any future left for a man like Ryback?
I'll say it once, I'll say it again. They should have moved him over to the world title picture, gave him that Rumble win. Cena didn't need it. They just gave it to Cena so he had bragging rights. In terms of salvation, yes, that's when we had a brand extension. Now, not so much. And reason being, he's lost too much. It's like the Great Khali. The Great Khali would never be a world champion. Reason being,
he was.
Well, he was, but he'll never be one again because everyone and their mum has beaten the Great Khali. I think even a woman's beaten him at one point.
Beth Phoenix eliminated from a Royal Rumble.
There you go. There's no credibility there. If you're looking at the next guy to put the world title on, it wouldn't be Great Khali. Same goes for Ryback. He's been beaten by everybody from Punk to Cena, even to the lower level guys, and he's not at that level anymore where you can say that he deserves any kind of title shot whatsoever. If they're going to build him back up, they have to do it now, and they have to do it properly. He has to be beating guys, and he has to be beating guys at a higher level. There were so many positions they could have put this guy in. You know, he could have even been the face of the company if they really wanted to go that route with his heel turn. I'm not saying it was a good move. I still don't think Orton's a good move at being the face of the company, but they could have done anything to salvage him, but they chose not to. Even if he was a bodyguard, even if he's in the role that Kane's in at the moment, that wouldn't have been an issue because at least he was doing something and he would look physically dominant. The moment that guy opens his mouth and cuts a promo, that's not a one-word syllable.
But isn't that essentially what he was doing with Paul Heyman, just being the muscle? I mean, it'd be the same role, except it being a different program.
Yeah, but he was getting beaten up all the time by Punk.
Actually, on a weekly basis, he was getting the better of Punk. It was just in the matches he was losing.
Yeah, but he was losing. That's where it was counts. At least he could have got one over in Punk in terms of matches. He didn't. And that was the problem. And I can understand they didn't want to harm Punk's credibility for some weird reason, but in a sense, the one reason why the whole Paul Heyman feud sort of died down very quickly is because there was no upper hand. Paul Heyman only had the upper hand with one guy, and that was Brock Lesnar. Nobody else.
The main issue with that is you start off a feud as strong as CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, and then you expect the fans to accept Curtis Axel versus CM Punk and Ryback versus CM Punk.
Mm-hmm. Should have been started well in advance.
Yeah, well, I think you should have started with a guy like Curtis Axel and built your way up to Brock, but hey.
Yeah, but, we're actually thinking logic.
Yeah, I know.
Also, Piano Man gave me a fun little thing that I missed last week on Raw. He said when they showed the commercial for the upcoming Goldberg DVD, after they came back, fans were chanting "Ryback, Ryback." That's really good.
They should just go full swing with it and just see what happens.
You know what I really wish they'd chant Goldberg and he just addresses it on a promo? Use it. I mean, R-Truth, the reason he got over so much is because he embraced everything that the fans threw at him. I don't know why they ignore that shit. I think they could use it to his advantage. Heck, that could be a good building block for him.
Yeah. Well, I sort of take an opinion from both you guys on this. I think he had a really, really strong babyface run, and if they capitalized on it and they kept rolling with it, if they had him win that Royal Rumble, I really thought he was. When we did our predictions, I was 100% of the belief that Ryback was going to win it. And when he was in the final two, I was like, holy crap, it's going to happen. This guy's going to win. And then he didn't. Of all the people, John Cena had to get the win. It was just pathetic. I hated that. Man, that pay-per-view sucked. This whole
I don't even remember anything but the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, well, we had The Rock versus CM Punk. CM Punk, who always has those great matches everyone says is so wonderful, yet no one remembers that.
Well, the thing is, and I've said this once, I've said it again, they're on a trend of bad booking at the moment. They're not...
Since last year?
Well, they don't have any proper formula. There's simplicity in terms of booking wrestling, and it's you book A and B. You have your heel, you have your face. Tell the story. Let them tell the story in the ring. Let them cut the promos. Let them sell themselves. But the problem is now, everything has to be big. They throw everything into one bundle. You have a pay-per-view, and then the next night on Raw, you have the same matches again in rematches, and it just doesn't work.
I disagree with the comment.
Hold on, I'm not done. People are going over me here. After Royal Rumble, he goes into WrestleMania. They build up this whole thing about Ryback going against Mark Henry, all on the premise that we should see Ryback pick up Mark Henry and drop him down for the shell shock. And yes, we did get to see him eventually do that, but that wasn't the end of the match. Instead, Mark Henry just falls. He just falls on top of Ryback when he has him up in the air and pins him for the victory. How on earth can you say a guy is going to be taken as a serious competitor after his big WrestleMania moment was that?
To be fair, though, everyone did buy into him when he knocked Cena down with the title. In fact, there was a lot of buzz surrounding it.
Yeah, but that's because the people that night would have popped for anything. That was the night after WrestleMania.
Shit, they capitalized on it. Doesn't matter. As soon as they're invested, they're invested.
Yeah, but they fell out pretty fast.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, I remember when he made himself like known as the contender. I remember talking to Paden and saying to him, "Yeah, this is going nowhere. They're not going to allow him going over Cena, so it just made that whole really useless."
Well, I actually enjoyed the feud between them. I think they actually had at least one solid good match with the whole... Was it the ambulance? Yeah, I think that was the good match.
Well,
yeah,
the match.
Right.
Well, the match had turned into a 3 stages of hell match.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Ryback still went around with an ambulance.
Yeah, still fine. Still a good match.
Yeah.
No, I think it just was too soon. They should have held off on the Cena Ryback feud.
Honestly, I disagree with, I know a lot of people say he should have took the world title after the Rumble. I think they should have continued the Punk thing and finally have him get that win over CM Punk. It was the only way he could have redeemed himself during that time. But that's just me.
The one thing is, they could have redeemed him that way by having him eliminate Punk at the Rumble. Oh no, Punk was champion at the time, wasn't he? Yeah. Well,
but I remember all the fantasy booking conversations back then. I would have had CM Punk get the title back due to Cena costing him at the Elimination Chamber, and then led to CM Punk versus Ryback, because that whole Rock versus John Cena match did not need the championship.
No, it didn't. But they wanted to make it with the championship because, God knows Cena needs a 12th championship reign.
All right, guys, let's move on from Ryback here. We had a match tonight between Alberto Del Rio against Kofi Kingston. Pretty short match. Del Rio gets the win with the armbar. Kofi Kingston just cannot get a break, just going out there and being filler for the guy who's not even world champion anymore.
Yeah, Kofi's the reliable guy that everybody throws into a match. So the fans always cheer him. He always gets a good pop. And he's always used to make the heel look good in terms of a win. He's Mr. Reliable.
Well, fucking very reliable in this match. I don't know if it's just because I'm that disinterested in fucking Del Rio or the match was bad. And for some reason, even though you said it's short, it felt long as hell to me. I'm just really not interested. It's like as soon as Del Rio's music plays, I just zone out and glass over.
But it's Del Rio. Of course, every one of his matches seem too long.
Yeah, I'm just, fuck this guy. As I said, fuck Del Rio every show.
I got some PR Man's coming here. Del Rio is not only the non-title holder, but he's not even interesting.
When you start siding with Zeb Coulter on the side that you feel that Del Rio just needs to be deported, then you know there's something wrong.
Oh, shit.
We'll get to that a little bit later.
Can we have Zeb and JBL chase him over the border?
Next match we had, Randy Orton came out, and his opponent was to be decided by the WWE app. Jerry Lawler gets up. He's about to reveal the winner of the poll, but Orton interrupts him, cut a quick little promo there, talking about how it doesn't matter who he is, and he's the Viper, and blah, blah, blah. The next person's just going to be the next Viper's victim. Ends up being Big E Langston by a landslide. Has a pretty decent little match. However, Orton ends up winning with an RKO out of nowhere, of course. Steven, how'd this go?
The match was so-so. I think it was actually a pretty decent... you know what? I'll take that back. It was an average match. It was a good showing for Big E Langston. I think it'll work in his favor to work with some guys who are more... Well, I can pretty much say Orton's a veteran at this point, so it was a good chance for him to work with a veteran like Orton and up his game. It gives a showing to the guys in the back, and they can see where they want to place this guy. And also, if the voting was legit on this, it shows that the fans are somewhat invested for Big E. So, overall, I say it was good. It was good for business.
Burhan?
I liked it, and especially being Big E's on my fantasy league team. I always saw big things for this guy. He's doing really well. He put on a hell of a show even though he lost. So I see big things for the guy. It was a very interesting match. The pace wasn't the usual Orton sort of rest hold type of pace. It seemed more quick, more high impact. And he put over Big E strong.
You know who else put over Big E strong?
No. So, next match we had was a mixed tag team match with Fandango and Mrs. Fandango. Summer Rae. A little JBL impression there. Against the returning Tyson Kidd and his wife, Natalya. Finally, with the man she's supposed to be with. Kick-ass match these guys had, and ladies, I should say. Tyson Kidd and Natalya end up getting the win when Tyson Kidd puts the sharpshooter on Fandango. Really excellent mixed tag match. Good to see Tyson Kidd back. Hopefully he's going to be continually on Raw every week. Glad to see that him and Natalya are united. Summer Rae, I'm liking her more and more every week. Fandango, why the fuck are you losing? I get it. Whatever. They got to do what they got to do with him. But he's going to bounce back. I believe it. Believe in the Fandango. Steven?
Question, where the fuck was Raw tonight? Because between Tyson Kidd and winning and CM Punk and Bret Hart tights, I'm pretty sure it's got to be Canada.
It had to have been Canada. I haven't gotten an exact answer. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah, no one fucking mentioned it on the show where they was from because of the cold opening.
Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay, that's fucking just whack.
It is weird.
I think it's even worse is I just used the word whack, but moving on. As far as the match goes, I was really impressed with this. It had eye candy that I actually liked. It had solid professional wrestling. And these two just worked really well together. I wouldn't mind Tyson Kidd beating Curtis Axel for the IC title and them feuding over it. I really enjoyed this. It was one of the high points on Raw tonight. It was really awesome. Not much more I can say about that.
Burhan?
Agree with Steven there. It was a very good high point from Raw because the match was very solid. Kidd put on a great show. The fact that him and Natalya were in there together, they worked really well. They allowed him to shine, and usually they don't do that. Usually he's like jobber fodder. He's kind of usually in the position that Kofi's in. But yeah, did really well, and I can't wait to see him compete against Axel if they allow him to.
All right, and after that, we got a really fun little backstage segment where Renee Young starts interviewing Damien Sandow. He eventually is interrupted by Zeb Coulter and the Real Americans coming in, who claim that together they're about to make a serious statement that the Real Americans are going to be big tag team contenders. And really, really fun little interaction between the two. Zeb Coulter and Damien Sandow standing across from each other with a mic in between. It was just a really fun image to see, and they played off each other really well. It was kept short, and I liked this a lot. Steven, did you enjoy it as much as I did?
Yeah, it was a strong showing from Zeb as per usual. The guy's probably one of the best promo guys they have in the WWE right now, and Damien Sandow too. Ever since Damien's taken this more serious turn in his character, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. He's looking more legitimate in the ring, and he's coming off as a more natural guy that can whoop your ass. And even in this promo, he seemed just more serious and genuinely real. So I enjoyed this. It was fun. It was kept short. Didn't overstay its welcome. So yeah, awesome.
And Burn?
I agree. I love the fact that Sandow's still a contender in this whole Cena world title thing. I think once the feud with Del Rio's over between him and Cena, we're going to see a lot more of Sandow in the title picture, which is a good thing. Even though he didn't cash in, hopefully we might see him actually get the big win. With the tag team with the Real Americans, quote unquote, they're doing great. They're doing their own thing, and I see tag titles in their future rather soon.
So next we had John Cena coming down to the ring. He heralds the partnership that they had through the month of October with Susan B. Komen. Hopefully all this pink stuff can go away. And I don't want to be a hater on it, but enough is enough. You know, you do that for a whole month, and it's not just the ropes. Every single person was wearing pink, had their faces painted pink, had pink gloves.
It's going to be all year round now.
Oh, really? It's breast cancer year? Is that what's coming up?
Yeah, that's what he said. We're getting it for a year round now, so you better get used to it.
Did he really say that?
He said all the merchandise is going to be around for a year.
Oh, I mean, they're going to sell it, but I don't think that people are going to be coming down and wearing it every match.
I'd hope so, just to piss you off.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, John Cena ended up partaking in a six-man tag match, teaming up with the team of Goldust and Cody Rhodes to go against the Real Americans and Damien Sandow. We had the pleasure of having not just Zeb Coulter, but also Alberto Del Rio there in commentary. Normally, I wouldn't say it's a pleasure having Alberto Del Rio there as a guest commentator, but it was only because Zeb Coulter got to burn on him the entire time. From the very start, before Del Rio even said a word, Zeb Coulter's like, what's he doing here? What's that guy doing here? Great. Kudos to them for keeping the continuity. And this match as well, excellent match. Everything was done perfect. The Faces team ends up winning when Goldust hits a picture-perfect final cut on Antonio Cesaro for the pin. Another one of the great high points of the night. Excellent match. Burhan, what you got to say about it?
Love the match. The pace was rather quick. They kept the story being told, which is a great thing as well. The Zeb Del Rio dialogue actually made me laugh a little bit. Then they started directing their anger at Michael Cole, which is always a great thing. I love Cole hating. And it was pretty impressive. The fact that Goldust picked Cesaro up with ease to hit that final cut, I thought was impressive as well. Great match. Everyone looked really great. Cody Rhodes, Goldust are really gelling as a team. Well, they're brothers, of course they're going to be gelling. The Real Americans looked strong. Sandow looked extremely strong as well. Cena was basically his usual self, but very entertaining.
Steven?
I really enjoyed the match, and I enjoyed the stuff with the commentary. The only way you have Alberto Del Rio be entertaining is when Zeb Colt is ripping the piss out of him.
Exactly.
And I fucking just love JBL. JBL, it's like, I don't know if JBL's actually fed lines or not half the time. I think he's just there to just randomly insert comments, because no one really pays that much attention, and he just comes out with the most obscure shit. And it actually made a lot of, when you got Sandow, Swagger, and Cesaro just working the heat on Cena, they made those moments during the match entertaining too, even the quiet parts. Generally, I just thought this whole thing was done so well, and it's just another incident where it's showing that John Cena can actually go as long as he's with the right guys. I don't think he gets enough credit. Ever since, I think 2005, 2006, and even to 2007 was like the years where it was cool to hate John Cena, but I think it's finally easy. I think it's easing off a bit, and people are starting to come to the realization of what he really is.
Well, he's also just coming back from an injury, and granted, it wasn't a long time away, but there was a little bit of time for him to be away, and now we can appreciate a fresher Cena.
Plus, even before that, I mean, the Cena hate's died down a lot, and I
lost my Cena hate in like 2009, I think it was. I don't particularly like the guy, but it's not just hate for hate's sake on John Cena. I don't understand that anymore. I
think everyone's gone through a phase of it. He might just be the new generation taking our place doing it.
Well, you know what? That's exactly what it is. He beat my childhood heroes of Shawn Michaels and Triple H at WrestleMania consecutively. That hurt. That was tough for me to accept.
I'm just hoping we get to see Undertaker drop the fucker on his head. He'll redeem it for me. So there was a bit of vengefulness there, but other than that, I've pretty much overcome my Cena hate. But yeah, just to sum back up the match, it was a solid match, awesome going, and Jesus Christ, did everyone see that Goldust crossbody? That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got to say. Great showing. Everyone looked strong in this match, and everyone looked better for it. Even in the Real Americans and Sandow losing, they looked good for it, and that's what's important.
Burhan?
The thing about the John Cena hate, I just want to touch on that. I don't actually hate the guy for sake of hating him or because he beat my childhood heroes. It's because he's embodied everything that Vince McMahon tries to force down people's throats, which is the whole American then apple pie attitude. It's the same thing he's done with Hogan. He did it with Lex Luger. It's all the good guy always has to be this American hero, so to speak. That was my issue. But going on to the match itself, as I said, everyone looked impressive. So extremely happy with it. And as one with Steven on the whole thing, that Zeb's just ripping the piss out of Del Rio. It just makes Del Rio look that more appealing.
Awesome Piano Man did bring up something that I actually did notice throughout this match. Does anyone think the Cesaro swing was a little out of place near the end of the high-paced finish? I felt that too. I felt going into this long swinging sequence.
Do you know when it would have been ideal?
What's that?
You know when it would be ideal? During the beatdown on Cena before the hot tag?
Mm-hmm.
Would have been okay there. It would have picked the pace up a bit.
Would have been perfect.
That's the ideal place, and then they could have had a double down in the hot tag.
Double down. Double downward dog.
I can't use any wrestling lingo. If I use fucking stiff, I get Biggie Langston jokes.
Stiffy,
if I use double down, I get this shit. You know what? I'm just gonna have to get every Smark word out of my vocabulary at this point.
There's a podcast I listen to, and what they do is they have a jar, and every time someone uses a Smark word, you have to put a quarter in the jar.
That's funny.
That's what you should do. So, after that match, we have a short little bit where we see Big Show shaking hands backstage, and we cut to Vicky Guerrero hesitantly telling Triple H that Big Show is in the building. Stephanie enters soon after and says that she was the one who invited Big Show, and we already ran down the result of that. So let's head into the next match. We had Dolph Ziggler versus Curtis Axel. Once again, no Paul Heyman in the building, so Curtis Axel came out by himself. This match was not so good. Ziggler ends up winning with a zigzag.
Worst Fameasser in the history of WWE.
Now, who's really to blame for that?
Ziggler.
It was Ziggler.
Okay, it was like, I think he felt odd because of the timing of how Curtis rolled back, but he should have just halted, then jumped up and dropped the leg. He was too eager. Eager beaver. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Burhan, what do you think of this match?
It was okay. It was a random sort of Ziggler match, hitting all the moves that he usually hits. It was more sort of panhandling to the fans, so to speak. You know, get a little bit of high octane in there. I'm not really confident in Axel anymore. He just doesn't seem to, like, since Heyman's gone. Well, even before then, he seems to be flailing about. You know, there's not really any set plan for him, and I think he needs to get into a good feud, a good story. If they're confident with him staying with the IC title, he needs to be built up a little bit more, because the way he's going at the moment, putting him in random matches isn't helping him at all.
I'd just like to say something about Dolph Ziggler. The fans don't give a shit about this guy when he's in the ring anymore, and it's not because he isn't a good worker. No one knows what to fucking pop for anymore. He has no continuity with his moveset.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I meant to pop when he hits a super kick. I don't know if I meant to pop when he hits a zigzag. I don't know if I meant to pop when he hits the Fameasser. What the fuck? Oh, the sleeper hold.
The sleeper hold. Or, there's at least one more.
He's probably used one more. I'm just waiting. I think he should just, like, every week use an Attitude Era guy's finishing move, like comes with the rock bottom one week and then the stunner with the next one.
He could be like the next Eugene.
Shit, he's fucking... You know what? It'd actually make him somewhat relevant now at this point. The guy's fallen from grace so hard.
And you want to talk? We talk about people who have fallen since that night after WrestleMania. Ryback and Dolph Ziggler. Holy crap!
I think Dolph Ziggler's been worse off than he has. I mean, Jesus Christ, poor guy.
Ziggler, I think they failed to capitalize on the reversal that they did between him and Del Rio. They kind of threw him out of the title picture without actually giving him any closure.
I'm gonna say it. I don't think he has it. I think he's a great worker and a great Intercontinental champion. I don't think he's a world champion.
But they should have at least given him time.
He doesn't have to be world champion, though.
I know, I'm not saying he is, but I hear a lot of people... It's like people talk about missed opportunities. I don't think it's so much of a missed opportunity, more that the guy doesn't have it.
He could be a great challenger for it, but he doesn't need to be doing these crummy, short little matches.
They could have been giving him a bit more time. Look, they gave Miz a ton of time before, they realised that he was shit. They could have given Ziggler a bit more time on the title to see how he progressed. That's the only way you can do it. Put the title on him, let him go for the long haul, see how he works. If he's shit, then take it off and never put him back on it.
I got a question from the chat. Habits don't die, say that they're entering Zack Ryder territory with him. You think that's about right?
No.
I don't think it's too far off, honestly. I mean, you got to consider they're good friends. They got popular in a lot of the ways with the internet in the same way. They both had big mid-card runs, and now they're pretty much nothing. I mean, Ziggler's at least on TV at this point, but
he's on the fence. I mean, he could go either way at this point.
I think if he doesn't start doing something soon, he will be that main event talent. I don't mean like at the end of the show. I mean on Wednesday nights where nobody's watching.
You know what, though? If that does happen, I think it's a lot to do with him. He needs to change it up. It doesn't always rely on booking, because obviously what he's doing right now isn't working, and I'm not interested in it.
And something else from the chat I want to pull out. Awesome Piano Man. Just look at the votes. 12% for Dolph Ziggler, 75% for big, enormous Langston. And to think that earlier this year, late last year, Biggie Langston was the lackey for Dolph Ziggler, and this is where we're at now.
Shit, I mean, other than him looking like a big goofy bastard, the guy's obviously got something that makes you interested. Maybe it's just his size. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, apparently, you know how they've been like rotating stars into Sling merch? I guess Dolph Ziggler was the guy chosen to do it on SmackDown this past week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, poor.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
From main event in SmackDown to selling merchandise.
You know what? I bet this is a rib with the guys backstage, like the main event talent. They're all like, alright, which one should we fuck over and make sell merch this week?
Oh my goodness.
But, fucking lost track of where we are.
That's fine. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about a handicap match. At least I think it was a handicap match. The Usos versus three-man band. Usos end up getting the win. They do this funky dance after the match. I don't think they had a third man. Perhaps you guys can correct me, but just another filler match.
I think it was a tag match. I mean, it was that random, and it was really sloppy for these guys. They're normally a lot better than this, more so from 3MB side than the Usos, but I had a hard time getting into this match, and I was really excited when the Usos came out. I was actually really disappointed with the end result.
I don't know what happened. Maybe they had a longer match planned and they got cut, and that threw them off, which ends up being a lot of the cases with these kinds of matches.
As much as a big fan of I am as Drew McIntyre, he looked fucking terrible in this match. I think he was the reason it fell apart.
It's very possible.
But I don't know, if you went from being the chosen one to being that, you might get discouraged too.
Burhan, you got anything to say?
Not really. It's just I kind of zoned out as well when this match was happening. Who won? Was it the Usos?
It was the Usos, yes.
Okay. Yeah, just zoned out. I'm not. There's nothing against either one of these guys, but they don't really set the world on fire anymore. So
we were debating in the chat room why this match was placed here. And my theory was, they're probably just putting this here because they got one more match left, and this is just to cool it down before going into something really exciting. I think at this point there was about 20 minutes left of showtime, so it's like, yeah, there's got to be another match. And, of course, there was another match. The Bellas and Eva Marie teaming together to go against Tamina and AJ, and they probably had a third person with them, too, and I don't know who it was. But anyway, Eva Marie ends up getting her first WWE victory with a roll-up. Eva Marie has arrived. Gentlemen, Steven, what do you got to say?
I was fucking crying. It was so funny. We were having such a heated debate about fucking, well, not so much heated, but there was a lot of words spoken and talking about, it's got to be the cool down period. There might still be enough time for a big main event. And we get this fucking bullshit. I was like, for fuck's sake. So this is the cool down, huh? Okay. Okay.
Little did I know that was the high point.
It went from the cooling point to the frozen point. Jesus Christ, this was abysmal.
Aksana was in there. Okay. Aksana the drug. Getting high on Aksana. I didn't even notice because I was so high on Aksana.
And you know what? Fucking all these women don't do anything for me, so it wasn't even good for eye candy, and I was too lazy to take a piss break, so it's just me sitting on the couch in torture.
As far as eye candy goes, this isn't even the best selection. I mean, yes, AJ is beautiful, but Aksana, Tamina, even Marie isn't even that hot.
The fucking Bellas are ugly. I really don't like them. They're repulsive to me. But hey, we saw some decent ones with Summer Rae and Natalya earlier.
Oh, yes, indeed. Summer Rae, possible contender to take my heart away from AJ. And Paige is down there, too. I'm going to be very torn in the next couple of years with WWE Divas.
Yeah, but the thing is with Paige and freaking AJ, if you was with a woman like that, it'd be like doing a 13-year-old. It'd be creepy.
What, Paige isn't that small?
She is. Have you met her in real life?
Have you?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I'd still do it. I dig pale chicks.
All right.
I guess that's the end of the show, guys. We've covered every segment here, so all that's pretty much left is to go around, get your overall thoughts of the show tonight, and cap it up with your high point and your low point. Steven?
Generally, it was a piss-poor show with a very good match between Fandango and Tyson Kidd. I won't really mention the women because they didn't fucking do anything in the match.
Thank you, Austin Piano Man.
Oh, fuck.
Sorry to cut you off. Yes, there was a backstage segment where Renee Young was interviewing Los Matadores, and little El Cerrito was running around and starts hitting her with his horns, and one of the, I guess it was Fernando, I think she pointed out, says, sorry, he's a little horny. I guess the gimmick that they're rolling is one of them knows how to speak English pretty competently, and the other one speaks really broken English, so he needs the other one to translate for him.
You was loving this segment. That's fucking the total opposite.
That was great. I'm sorry, Steven. Continue what you were saying, though.
What the fuck was I on? I totally forgot what I was saying.
That's your wrap-up of the show.
Oh, yeah. It was shit other than two things. The tag match with Fandango and the six-man tag was awesome. The rest of the show was pretty fucking abysmal. The ending segment got me interested, but really confused at the same point. So I suppose it's good that I want to tune in next week to see it, but whatever I watch next week, I'll probably be cut off by free commercials. So,
what was low point?
My low point and high point for this evening. My low point was probably, just to spite you, the fucking Los Matadores segment. Mm-hmm. And my high point of this evening was definitely the six-man tag.
Mr. Burhan.
High point for me, I would actually say the same. 6-man tag. The low point, the whole rest of the show. I think. No, actually, I'll say the Divas match. I just it was inserted not because of the fact it was bad. It was inserted
real bad placement.
It was in a place where it shouldn't have been. If that makes sense, you know. I understand what they were doing with the show closer, but it sucked all the energy out of the show because we all thought, oh, it's going to end with a Divas match. That's it. It's done. It's over and done with. Can't do it now. And that kind of killed all the momentum that I had for the show. After that, I was kind of not interested. And you know what you said about the confusing booking? It's always been like that. The whole establishment era sort of thing has been confusing.
Yeah, but I've seen like where they want to go in the future. This is one of the times where I genuinely don't know what's going to happen next. Like I can't even put an estimate on it. I don't know what they're going to do with Kane especially, and I can guess somewhat with the Big Show match, but other than that, I ain't got a fucking clue. And I suppose
Kane's the only thing that intrigues me. That's it. The Big Show thing, I don't really care. And it's because he's not a guy that should have been slotted in that position. But I'm not going to go too much into detail about that. That could be another time, another place. But in terms of the way that this goes, if they end up taking the title off of Orton, it'll be too soon. You'll kill Orton's momentum. If they keep Show, if they get Show beaten by Orton, you can see it because they've got the odds against him now. What intrigues me is the whole Kane in the suit thing. I want to see what's happening with that. But apart from that, there's not really anything on this show worth a damn. I'm not interested.
They just did it to fuck my WWE 2K roster up. I was like, you know what? You're not having an updated roster. Fuck you, Stephen.
Well, now you can put him in a suit.
Actually, yeah, I can actually edit the attires.
Can you edit his boss?
No, you can't edit them all, though.
Well, what you can do, on the superstar heads.
But they're not all there.
You can save them as an alternate attire. I mean, you can put him in the mask in a suit.
I know, but they don't have everybody in that superstar heads.
They have most people. They have Kane in it. They have Undertaker. They have all the main ones.
So Kane, I wasn't sure if Kane was one of them. I know it's only like a dozen or so people that are in
Daniel Bryan, Kane, Shawn Michaels, that type of thing, and they're adding more in the DLC.
Oh, fantastic.
Which is already on the disc.
Yeah, of course. So let's see. Awesome Piano Man throughout his high point is the 6-man tag and Big E Langston. And the low point, no Vince McMahon. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, he
was kind of promised.
He was?
Yeah,
but suggestively.
Scoops.com was rumoring that he was going to be there.
Oh, that's not promised. Oh, come on, please.
But he was on the event list to be there, if that makes sense. But again, it's card subject to change.
Yeah.
As Scoops
it's
reports,
not like it was
just as legitimate as a Dave Meltzer at this point.
Yeah, it's not like there was a big thing on WWE.com. No, you know what they do now? They send you them goddamn text messages about whenever there's some big news coming up for the show. That's what they do. So,
you would have knew, but you didn't have the app.
Yeah, exactly. As far as for me, my high point, low point, I'm going to actually say the mixed tag match with Fandango and Summer Rae against Tyson Kidd and Natalya. That was the high point for me. I enjoy the younger people. I think it's great to see Tyson Kidd back. He looked happy to be on TV again. Him and Natalya looked ecstatic to be working together. Fandango and Summer Rae are a great pairing as well. I see big futures for the both of them. So I'm going to keep an eye on all four of these people going forward, and I suggest you do as well. Low point for me, I am actually going to say the matchup between Alberto Del Rio and Kofi Kingston because it just dragged and dragged and dragged. It was terrible.
A question. You said this was a short match. Did you actually mean that, or did it just genuinely... I don't know if it just felt long or...
It did feel long. It felt long, but it was...
Yeah, I felt it felt really fucking long, too. That's why I was shocked when you said it was short.
No, it was short. It was a short TV match. It was like maybe 6-7 minutes at most.
Wow, it felt like a good 15. That's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can see why you'd put it up there.
Oh, yeah, Awesome Piano Man. That was something else I was going to say. Awkward commercial placement is another low point, specifically the one at the end where Big Show was making his demands and the Shield comes down and all of a sudden they do commercial. They did the same thing last week.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's
came
worse?
Down to cash in. Well, definitely last week was worse.
Yeah, it did kill all the buzz. It's just, this one seemed odder, but the last one had a bigger effect on the viewer.
Well, the one they did this week actually reminded me of something they did when Vince McMahon first came back onto the scene.
Yeah, I know what you're
about. And the Shield's music hit, and they started coming down, and they went to commercial. And then when they came back, the Shield was just letting Vince McMahon walk right out of the ring, like no big deal. And it was the same thing this time. The Shield comes down when you come back. It's like the Shield aren't even there.
That was during the point where when they still attacked people too. So you actually got hyped up like, oh, they're going to triple powerbomb Vince. This is awesome. Nope. See you, Vince.
Habits Don't Die, high point 6-man tag, low point watching Kane come out to his theme in a suit. At first, I thought it would be his See No Evil character.
It's just fucking odd.
How are they going to work that in, like him doing this movie while he's doing this corporate character?
Actually, it might work in very nicely. They can just pass him off like, oh, thanks for doing this movie, Kane, and I don't know, he could have had ties to the corporation prior to that segment for all we know, and he agreed to do the movie, and he's been in a suit and tie backstage all this time. Who knows? Yeah,
could be. All right, guys, let's wrap things up here. Burhan, why don't you shoot some plugs out there?
Nerdgenius.com, fanboysanonymous.com, enigmaentertainment.co.uk is coming up on this Friday. That's going to be up and running. We're going to be shooting this show for hire on the 23rd of November, so that's going to be a fun episode. That's episode 3. And loads of other fun stuff coming on, guys, so stay tuned to that. And also my YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheNerdGenius. I currently have a video up there on a glitch that I found in GTA Online. If you want to check that out, you can make millions and millions of dollars extremely quickly. They're probably going to patch it soon.
Hold on, really? You make what?
Millions and millions
of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
I was waiting for that. So yeah, check that out.
Steven?
For me, every Tuesday, which is tomorrow, so 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on Dream Elite, you can catch all the MMA goodness on Unanimous Decision, Mixed Martial Arts. We're going to be talking Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez from Bellator 106. We've got 2 UFC cards for Fight for the Troops and Henderson versus Belfort, which is going to be a very interesting matchup. So we'll have a review of the Bellator event and predictions for the UFC cards. And also November 17th, you can check out the anime show with me and Jana as we talk Danganronpa and a few other anime topics.
Chat room is awesome. See No Evil 2, corporate shenanigans. Just when you thought it was safe to go to the boardroom. If you're not tuning in live every week following Monday Night Raw, you should be, so you can join us in the chat room and here on the show. So find us after the conclusion every week on Mega Powers Radio at megapowersradio.com. We're live every Monday night. We take your calls. You can join the chat, and you can listen to us rant and rave about whatever happened that week on Raw. We also got great content every night of the week here on Mega Powers Radio. Check it out at the aforementioned address. Also, see all the archived versions of the show, including this one, at youtube.com/megapowersradio. And also, subscribe to us on facebook.com/megapowersradio. Guys, thank you everyone for listening. I'm Mike Paden for Stephen Wago and for Michael Burhan. We'll see you next time here in the Mega Powers Radio Monday Night Raw post show.